it's nice to know that President Biden's press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, is consistent. Listen.
When is the next time that people will hear from the president?
I'm not going to get into hypotheticals.
If you missed that, Karine Jean-Pierre, KJP, was asked, when is the next time that people will hear from the president? To which she answered, I'm not going to get into hypotheticals. Hypotheticals. It's hypothetical whether the President of the United States will address the American people and the media. Telling the truth has, well, let's be honest, has never been her forte, and she's been consistent about that since she started this gig. The only Joe Biden spottings that we've had has been boarding Air Force One for another junket. He's doing some hard-hitting legislation, though, in his final weeks. Maybe he's working aboard that big old plane. Well, he's not really trying to close the border with that legislation or ending biological men playing in women's sports or the lawlessness in our major cities or helping the economy. None of that. I mean, don't be silly. First, it was the commutation of 37 sentences for the dangerous death row inmates earlier this week. And then, thinking about his legacy, he officially made the bald eagle the national bird of the United States. It is pretty. And don't get me wrong, I love that bald eagle as much as the next guy. I don't really love the Philadelphia Eagles, but that's a whole other story. But I can think of 500 other things Joe Biden should be focused on in the final weeks of his presidency. And to top it all off, today, Joe Biden doing something he's gotten really good at during his presidency. Taking vacations. He and Jill off to St. Croix, getting in one last trip on taxpayers' dime. Because what's one more trip when you've spent 40% of your time as president on vacation? So as Joe Biden falls asleep with his mouth open on the sands of St. Croix, mutiny seems to be brewing at home. There was an op-ed in The Hill today. Congress has the power to block Trump from taking office, but lawmakers must act now. They never stop. So the party that's been exploiting January 6th, claiming it's an insurrection, is now using January 6th to commit their own insurrection to stop Trump before he gets to office. So legal scholars urging Congress to disqualify Trump under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, an amendment that says no person shall hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state who having previously taken an oath to support the Constitution of the United States shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. Okay, just a little reminder, Donald Trump has never been charged with insurrection, and neither has any person charged for crimes committed at the Capitol grounds on that day. But, of course, they threw the book at Trump. Look at all those charges, like 86 of them against Trump overall. No insurrection charge whatsoever. You can't find it. And forget about the fact that the Supreme Court ruled that the states can't disqualify Trump from office over their insurrection allegations or even a political impeachment of which he was not convicted in the Senate. You know, Trump derangement syndrome, it's kind of like shingles. It lies dormant, but eventually can strike at any time. Now, the left wants to stop Trump any way they can. In fact, Jamie Raskin told us that this summer.
You know, they want to kick it to Congress, so it's going to be up to us on January 6, 2025, to tell the rampaging Trump mobs that he's disqualified. And then we need bodyguards for everybody in civil war conditions.
Okay, so who else besides politicians like that guy, Raskin, and Liz Cheney are behind this push to overthrow the results of a Democratic election? That's what he was saying. Well, liberal elitists. Like the two who wrote this article, Evan Davis, who was the editor-in-chief of the Columbia Law Review, and David Schulte, who was the editor-in-chief of the Yale Law Review. And you wonder why the Ivies are so screwed up and producing good little socialist anti-Semites. And by the way, one of those guys, David Schulte, he's a friend and financial supporter of Barack Obama, and he stayed at the Obama's oceanfront Martha. Actually, Obama stayed at their oceanfront Martha's Vineyard. So it's all kind of interesting, right? It's a nice little connection. And these two overeducated imbeciles want to nullify the 77 million votes for Trump. But the real kicker to this whole story is the very last line. If all Electoral College votes for Trump were not counted, then Kamala Harris would be elected president. Kamala Harris's entire vice presidency and her presidential campaign was one of the biggest political failures in history, and they subverted the will of the Democratic Party primary voters. She was overwhelmingly rejected, and yet that is who the liberal elite want to install as the 47th president of the United States. It's obvious. They don't care about you. They certainly don't care about democracy, but they do care about their own agenda and will do whatever it takes to achieve it. Just listen to them. They are dangerous. And you know what? They have to be stopped.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.